Welcome back to another episode of the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullrank, and every week I cover everything going on in the world of SEO. We're talking blog posts, podcasts, new tools, webinars, ebooks, you name it, I'm on it. If you are into this, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, share it on the socials. I genuinely appreciate it. This week, a couple big announcements. We are partnering iPullrank with Women in Tech SEO. So awesome to be a part of that community. Despite me being a dude, I want to support all the women kind of, building their careers, and that community is incredible. We have a brand new ebook that you should download. It is Recession Proof, your SEO playbook in economic uncertainty, 40 pages, all about what you should be doing with the upcoming recession. Like, now's the worst time to be cutting your marketing budget. Like, honestly, don't do it. If you didn't learn your lesson from the pandemic, that's on you. A lot of controversial takes this week, whether it's like a Twitter thread from Mark Williams Cook or a Search Off the Record podcast from Google. So much fun, interesting content. And Eric Wu's like regular expressions from SMX Advanced, like how to use that for Google Search Console. Like, anyway, what do you say? Let's dive in. So there weren't too many Google updates this week, but some great content came out from the team over there. So first off, another SEO Fairy Tales with Martin Splitt. This time he had Dave Smart on, and they talked all about service workers, which we're getting super technical here, but it was interesting. Basically, service workers can be something, used to push notifications or work offline, do some extra functionality, right? But sometimes the JavaScript, in terms of that layer between, the servers and the website and all that, and the browsers, can create some issues, and Dave's run into a few of them when it comes to like indexing. And basically the story is about how they have to play serious detective with the developers to identify like where's the JavaScript breaking down with the service workers that ultimately is preventing Googlebot from indexing, crawling, and indexing the site. So really interesting, especially if you're into super technical developer SEO. Dave is brilliant. He does tame the bots. He has like a bunch of tools he's built over there. We've covered in the past at the SEO Weekly, but great banter between him and Martin, and fantastic episode. Definitely check that out. So this week, there was also published a special episode of Search Off the Record podcast with John Mueller and Lizzi Sassman. This one was actually done in a live audience at brightonSEO a few weeks ago, and they actually had a special guest, Myriam, Jessier, and it was hilarious. Basically, they covered a whole range of questions and topics, everything from, what's the above the fold going to look like in 20 years? How do you handle schema? Should you put it on other pages? Can you create new schema? How do you handle templated content? And one interesting thing they touched on, which is the age-old question of subdomains versus subfolders. And it was some fun banter between John and Lizzi and Myriam going back and forth. But Myriam pointing out, ultimately it does come back down to, sometimes the client or the business and their, reasoning for subdomains. As an SEO, you always need to question, like, why do you want it? Maybe they have a specific reason. It's an it depends situation, but fantastic episode, really entertaining. They tackled so many, like how they get rid of backlinks and the algorithmic approach to that in terms of how they penalize like linking schemes and things like that. So definitely check out the full podcast. Very entertaining. Speaking of subdomains and subfolders and that very controversial question in the world of SEO, or is it? This week on SEOChat, Mark Williams Cook of Candor Agency did a fantastic controversial SEO takes Twitter chat where he posed some of the most controversial takes that come up in the world of SEO, starting with the subfolders and subdomains. But he dove into all of those things that people claim may or may not be ranking factors that Google's either denied or never said any definitive proof, specifically social signals. Are social signals, like if people, look at a whole bunch of tweets and then click on the link and go over to the website, is that a social signal? Click-through rate, does that impact your actual rankings? Does bounce rate impact your rankings? Does pogo sticking, where you like leave and then you go back and then you leave and then you go back between tabs on your browser because Google has some insight into Chrome, does that impact your rankings? A lot of people, have their conspiracy thoughts, but for the most part, I don't think so. Maybe click-through rate. I get sucked in sometimes. I do get sucked in, but a really fun SEO chat by Mark and everyone who participated over there. So read through those replies. Excellent stuff. And on Twitter, Nikki Halliwell did a really cool little Twitter thread takeover for Semrush, talking all about, 7 steps to conduct a tech SEO audit, and not just like your boilerplate one. So she goes through all these key steps, and we do a lot of this at iPullrank as well, but basically, gather your basic website information, gathering your data, checking the backlink profile, doing technical checks to make sure there's nothing preventing like crawling or indexing, doing your internal links distribution and utilization, for instance, like breadcrumbs, or having any sort of widget set up to spread that link equity around to relevant topics and relevant pages, making a check for redirects and status codes if you have like a bunch of 404s or a bunch of redirect loops, checking those so they can be fixed. Ultimately, content and keywords. So you think about content engineering and co-occurrence, that you want a certain amount of your targeted keywords to appear in variations, to make sure you check for all of that, and going through all of these in an organized fashion to ensure that your site, at least technically, is set up for success and not shooting itself in the foot. Great thread by Nikki. Some of the basics, but some advanced stuff is there as well. So I appreciate that. Listen, when it comes down to it, in the world of SEO, it's just marketing. It's not the most important thing in the world. And there's an excellent article on Search Engine Journal by the team at SE Rankings. They are a ranking tool, and half their team is based in the Ukraine. And so what they did is they shared their 5 lessons for surviving crises from the Ukrainian team, which is it's just so inspiring, the way that they've come together and really supported all of their employees going through such like a major, ridiculous life challenge where, life and survival and humanity and coming together is more important than anything else. So, they put their people first. They didn't lay anybody off. They, provided as much mental health support and, kind of group therapy as possible. They said, stick to your plan as best as you can. They even were able to go to brightonSEO for the first time. So they tried their best with their product roadmap and tried to keep everything going. And that kind of, paved a way. Staying true to their business values, don't cut corners just because times are tough. Security, so always being proactive where you're assessing potential risks, obviously more than just life risks, but also like business risks. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, make sure you're covered. And then ultimately, don't be afraid to say what must be said, be transparent, be objective wherever you can, but also don't lose that humanity. Anyway, it's a great article. It's inspiring. Definitely support them as best you can. And remember, in the grand scheme of things, SEO is just marketing. It's just business. It's not life. If you are like on day one of your SEO journey and you don't necessarily want to just read about SEO, but you want to like get in the weeds, like where can you start? Well, Cyrus Shepard heard you. For Moz, they've had the Beginner's Guide to SEO, which has been, a Bible for a lot of folks just getting started. It's been around for decades. And, you have like Aleda Solis's Learning SEO.io, another great resource. But for getting things started, Moz put together a 7-day quick start guide. So tasks that you can do every single day to actually start implementing SEO for your business. If you're getting started, this is an awesome way to start. He's got, kind of a cheat sheet spreadsheet that you can use. So Day 1, you're gathering your SEO data. Day 2, you see how your site's indexed. Day 3, you're targeting specific keywords. Day 4, you're optimizing your search appearance. Day 5, you create content like a boss, as Cyrus says. Day 6, internal links and site architecture. And then day 7, gaining popularity via link building fundamentals, but things you can actually do to get started with SEO. Awesome work, Maz. Huge resource for anyone who's like literally day 1 getting started. Check that out. So Angel Niñofranco on Search Engine Land basically curated and put together this beast of a blog post all about regular expressions and Google Search Console data. Basically, she took a lot of insights and surfaced from Eric Wu, who's the VP of Product Growth at Honey and who spoke at SMX Advanced in his presentation. But basically, so regular expressions allow you to create kind of formulas to pull out pieces of information using specific like characters, letters, words, using slashes for URLs. And so Angel basically surfaced all the different ways that you can create these formulas, both in the Google Search Console UI, like in the regular expression search field, but then to actually get to the deeper data when you're using the API. And so how you might want to do that for branded misspellings or looking for different types of URL structures for various like e-commerce sites. So when you're dealing with like thousands and thousands and thousands of URLs, regular expressions can be incredibly helpful and critical, especially when you're doing like keywords and you're looking at, question regular expressions and using backslashes. The thing I love about this post is it's step by step using the actual regular expression formulas to help you get to that data and surface so many insights when it comes to Google Search Console. So awesome work, Angel. Great summary of Eric's presentation and so many actionable, practical little things that you can pull from this article. Boom. Another fantastic article by Adam Gent on the SEO Sprint. So remember, Adam writes all about ways SEOs and devs can work together in an agile format. And this time he talked all about the backlog. I don't know if you've ever worked with devs on the backlog, but it is, whether you're in marketing or in SEO, it's very hard to get your tasks prioritized. And so Adam breaks down like the backlog is all about ruthlessly prioritizing and how you can kind of get your tasks surfaced at the backlog and how it's important to review tasks and get rid of some of those backlog tasks that aren't necessarily the most valuable to the company. And see, that's the key, the value to the company. So Adam presents this really great perspective on using business strategy and business goals to surface the most important backlog items and how you should always be grooming the backlog and talking with devs and pitching your ideas in the context of business value. So many great processes and recommendations from Adam to check out. So if you work in an agile framework when it comes to your SEO and working with devs, everything he's kind of publishing is going to be super helpful to your day-to-day. Check out that post. So a couple of weeks ago, our own Michael King of iPullrank, as well as actually Brody Clark, who's an SEO consultant, noticed that shipping information was showing up as a rich snippet in organic SERPs. So puts on his detective hat and starts to investigate. And he's looking at some websites and finding that there's no like hard-coded data on shipping. So like, where's Google getting this information from? Well, it turns out that they're getting the information from the Google Merchant Center feeds. But it's potentially problematic because in the Google Merchant Center feeds, Google tells you, first off, you have to provide this data and it needs to err on the side of worst case scenario. And it's required if you want to show up in Google Shopping, which for most product commerce retailers and manufacturers, you do. It's a visibility thing. The problem is if potential customers are seeing the worst case scenario when it comes to your shipping, then that's going to impact your sales and impact your revenue. And that sucks. And so Mike looked into it and he didn't find like a solution for the time being. Like Google is not solving this problem for retailers. Not only that, so he says the only thing that you can do is at the very least annotate where the shipping snippet is showing up in SERPs and what it's saying, so you can be aware of how that might ultimately be impacting your purchases through organic. It's sticky. It's a sticky problem. It's something you need to pay attention to. And we know that Google doesn't always get it right. Hopefully it's something they solve sooner rather than later. They're trying to improve e-commerce, but you don't want to screw over your customers and create an awful user experience. So try to come up with something creative when it comes to what you're trying to present for the snippets. He even suggested, putting ambiguous kind of, shipping 4-day delivery types of options. So at least it piques curiosity and people figure out for themselves one way or the other. Definitely pay attention to this if you're in e-commerce. And in the world of iPullrank, a lot of cool things happened over the past week. So first off, super excited to announce that iPullrank agency has partnered with Women in Tech SEO. So we're supporting that amazing community by Arija Bouali and all of the women, across the world. It's very much a global organization that support SEO. So check that out. Super excited to, show up in their newsletters, help support them. I mean, Mike and myself are always kind of talking about all the great stuff that they're doing there, but happy to officially be in partnership with them. Second, brand new playbook. I know you're thinking ebook, guide, whatever, but this one is been working on it for a while. Okay, so the recession's coming, whether you want to admit it or not. Well, at the very least, the media is claiming that it's coming. I mean, you've seen all the tech layoffs anyway. Makes SEO a little tricky, right? You've got marketing teams are getting laid off, as I mentioned, budgets are getting slashed, and it's the worst time to cut budget. I mean, if you didn't learn your lesson during the pandemic when everyone else was pulling back on marketing, that's on you. Now's the time to double down, especially get all your ducks in the row. And so we've got this 40-page ebook playbook, recession-proof, your SEO playbook in economic uncertainty. So everything that you need to do, emerging trends in SEO that you need to take advantage of, some great quotes from Zach Chahalis, our director of SEO, and Kevin Indig, and our own Chris Harden, and a bunch of other experts. Super excited about it. You can find the link to download that in the description. Then in terms of some of our other content, another awesome episode of SEO Battle Zone. We're talking about AI content. It's been, on the lips of all SEOs, like, should you use AI content? Are you going to get dinged for it? Is it going to be good in the future? How about like written versus visual? Well, Mike King and Zach Chahalis, the flying dinosaur, they go hard. They talk all about it in SEO Battle Zone. They give their takes. I personally think it's not there yet. We're in a transition phase. You need to actually edit the content. You can't just use raw output. We've covered that in the past on some of our past rankables. Awesome episode. And speaking of rankable, I had Michael Carini of Last Mile Retail and our own Chantel Branch join me as a special guest to talk all about local SEO for enterprise e-commerce. We talked about locator store pages and how it's so messed up for so many companies, and you need to get that right. How to do like deeper content on all of your location pages. So critical for local SEO. Like, there's no excuse to not have helpful, useful information on your location pages, and so much more on that. And finally, like a little fun, ridiculous tidbit, but I joined Paul DeAndre on his SEO video show, which is so much fun. He does that every Friday. We talked all about demand generation for SEO. We talked a little bit about the recession and our campaigns and our focus on that. I'll admit I embarrassed myself and I freestyle rapped at the end, and you don't want to watch that. Whatever you do, don't watch the last 5 minutes of that episode. All in all, that's it. Another week of SEO in the books. The SEO Weekly nailed it. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullrank. Please, if you're into this, subscribe, comment, give me a like. Let me know if the music's still too loud. We're trying to get that down. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next week.